All right. Hello, everyone. Well, this sucks. So, two things. Number one, I went on vacation, got sick, and only recently now realized that it might have been the cough, cough, sneeze, sneeze, the good old thing that's been going around. It sucked. So, if my voice sounds like it's bad, or if you're coughing, yeah, just know that that's what it is. It's that, and I'm still kind of recovering. Oh boy. Secondly, Microsoft just decided to say fuck you and break the internet today with a nearly $70 billion purchase of Activision, which includes games such as like Call of Duty and like other shit. Holy mother of God. Microsoft out here definitely flexing their fucking wallets. Jesus. Man, I cannot wait for the immeasurable salt mines that are going to be coming out of this situation. I honestly cannot wait for it. It's going to be great. So let's just get into today's video. So today's video is not going to be about that because today's video is going to be on a video that I found that's like it's nearly a year old. So it's a little bit old at this point, but it still is relevant to talk about because this was made in 2021 and it is titled Console versus PC Gaming in 2021 by, I believe, Digital Dojo, something like that. And it's basically... It's not the worst example of like inaccuracies and badness because there's much worse examples out there. Like just naming the top three off of my head. Crap Gamer, obviously top of that list, number one. Saltiest Gaming probably at number two, and then Malcolm definitely sliding in at number three. Just to give like a quick top three most misinformed console people. But this guy, he's got some interesting talking points about it. So I'm gonna try to skip around a little bit. He does talk about like gaming and stuff in 2021 and like projected sales and things. So I'm just gonna skip past certain parts just to get to his main points. But yeah.
Honestly, I'm making this video to justify the amount of hours and time I've played games as of late. So there's that. The value of the video game market in 2020 last year was an estimated $64 billion. In a year where we all spent a little bit more time inside, gaming as an entertainment platform saw a huge surge. Whether it was players playing video games or heck, people watching people play it. Twitch alone saw a 26% increase in users to 41.5 million people. All in all, what I'm trying to say here is video games are here to stay, and they're far from the age-old mentality that they'll rot your eyes out, where gaming across many platforms, genres, ages, and demographics exists and is more accessible and popular than ever.
Okay, so this opening point is actually kind of true. He does actually back up his stuff. I will note that the article that he uses does seem to have been projected numbers for 2020, where it grew. Those are not actual numbers. I would have liked to see a more accurate definition of those numbers, just to be in case, because this was made during February of 2021, so I guess that makes a lot of sense. But I am going to say that this is probably one of the few points that I actually agree on that with him, that a lot of this does seem to be going in the same direction of growth.
With that, my name's Adrian Kogirin for Digital Dojos, and today we're going to be taking a look at the state of gaming, PCs versus consoles in 2021.
Oh, Digital Dojos, that was the one.
So, the age-old debate, PC master race, consoles, so on and so forth. Let me tell you what this video is and isn't. This video is not a way for me to say this one is, the end-all, be-all, and so on and so forth. If anything, this video is meant to help and give you an idea of the state of where both lie, in my opinion, as well as give a sense of if you can only invest in one right now, if you can only put your money towards one way or the other, what you should consider and why I think one trumps the other in certain categories. So with that, let's dive into it. I recently picked up a PlayStation 5, the highly coveted PlayStation 5, and it really reminded me of my nostalgia, my love of console gaming that initially sparked my interest in games to begin with. And my evolution starts from the N64 all the way up to the PS2 and Xbox, eventually leading me to the world of PC. And I've had my share of both. And here's the thing, and having played both as of recent. Let's start with the category of barrier to entry. How easy it is to get into a certain environment, whether it's console or PC gaming.
One thing that I will note is that the editing that he did for that kind of is not the best, mainly because the title came up way before he said anything of the actual like point that he was about to make. Also, that weird digital font and that white on white does not look good. Add a drop shadow or like or something to that shit, just to make it stand out more. Just saying, the white on your white background almost made that thing basically invisible. But go off, Queen.
This by far easily goes to consoles.
I mean, yes and no. I would say more no, because again, we'll let him explain.
In me picking up the PS5, even though that in itself was not easy and I had to pay aftermarket, that's a whole separate like stock situation that just exists across everything right now in the world of tech.
What? But I thought that you told me that it was, supposed to be easier to get a console. But yet you had to jump through all these hoops and you had to pay aftermarket stuff because stuff like was not in stock. It's almost like stuff for PC is a little bit more expensive, but you could at least find some PC parts as well as a few other things. I mean, almost like it wasn't as easy of a barrier to entry. You had to pay even more for a console. I don't know.
Setting it up out of the box, taking it, plugging it in, turning it on, it's as simple as that. And that's something you need to consider at scale for most people. There's not a learning curve.
Same thing for the PC.
If you plug it in and it works, right? Another idea of consoles is the price point and the affordability.
Same thing for PC.
At face value, consoles tend to be cheaper.
That cannot go to the console. I'm sorry. Not at all.
Right? And when it comes to people, and especially a younger demographic, if people are buying them consoles, it's an easier sell in a sense to just get the next gen current console.
Yet you had to go to other retailers and other aftermarket sellers in order to even find the thing at the time of this recording, by the way. This is again 2021, but even still in 2021, now going on into 2022, it's not that far into 2022, but even going on to today, it's still very difficult to get these consoles in stock for people because they're so backed up on orders. And yet for consoles and yet for PCs and PC parts, there's not a lot of difference as well. In fact, one of the things that he doesn't even seem to bring up, and one of the things I'm going to bring up as a personal thing is at the time that I got my original desktop computer, a tower desktop computer with a mouse and a keyboard off of Amazon. I know I overpaid a little bit, but I paid around $550 for that, and it was completely and utterly able to run everything that I wanted to. In fact, it was able to run even VR with its low specs. It had an i5 and I think a 1060, which is nothing to sneeze at. It's a little bit on the lower end. I think if I'm remembering my PC parts correctly, I don't remember specifically, but I do know that my mid-tier PC performed better than the consoles that were around there at the same time. And this is around the end of the Xbox and PS4 era, now going on to the Series X and S and other stuff like that. But yeah, it still ran better than those consoles, 100%.
When it comes to buying a PC for gaming, there's so many different layers to that, right? There is this kind of learning curve and understanding of a custom-built PC, pre-built PCs, manufacturer gaming PCs, and what's a good deal, what's good hardware, all of these different things that you need to consider when it comes to PC gaming.
Also, by the way, he's trying to use Best Buy. I wouldn't recommend Best Buy. Probably one of the last places to even get one of those systems. But again, it's good to know how to build and manage a PC. You don't even need to know how to build a PC. But again, these are all pre-builts, which are going to be more expensive. If you want to buy PC parts and assemble it yourself, go for it. I would say if you want to buy PC parts, but you don't want to build it, there are services out there that will just take your parts and assemble it at their station and then ship it to you. Custom building areas, custom build parts. And again, I would say probably check more of Amazon or check more of eBay if you're looking for cheaper parts or cheaper things. There are definitely way more options out there than just Best Buy and other stuff.
And it's the reason why it can be very daunting for a lot of people who want to get in the PC gaming space, but they don't know how to build a computer or anything about computers. And again, it's a reason why people stay out of it and just go the console route. And that's understandable to some degree.
This I kind of agree with. This is again one of those points that this is a gray area, but upon rewatching this again, I do 100% kind of agree in this area. Like 60% of the time it works every time. Where if someone is confused on PC parts or doesn't know anything about the PC, they might defer to a console because they know what they quote unquote know what they're getting into. That's usually the words they would use. But I would still argue that, again, if you're going for like a PC people, ask around and you can do things like Googling and do things like other searches, which isn't difficult. If someone doesn't want to do that and just wants to go onto a console for whatever reason, I'm not against that. It's not a thing that I'm saying, oh no, consoles are bad. You should never get a console, always get a PC. Like, no. Consoles have their place. Consoles are there for, I guess what he's saying is it's there for the less tech literate one. But again, if you know how to operate a console, you more or less know how to operate a PC because they're kind of the same in some regards. But this is one of the points that I kind of agree with him. If you don't know anything about the PC, I can see why you would want to go with a console. But there's still a lot more reasons to go with PC.
So in terms of barrier to entry, consoles have always had that edge in terms of simplicity, ease of use, and not having so much of a learning curve there.
Not true at all. Even though, again, there is maybe a learning curve of like a day, if that. But how many people... Here's the big thing that a lot of people on the console end don't tend to realize. They're saying like, oh, it's a huge learning curve in playing on PC. It's like, here's a big... Damn it. Here's a big fucking question. How often in like places like school, work, fucking the like colleges, how many places that are in operation today don't have anything to do with PCs? I know in my high school, like at the end of high school, I would have a day of coding, which is where we went onto our school computers, went on to places like code.com, Scratch whatever, and we would build things using code. How many people don't fucking know how to use a computer? If you don't know how to use a computer today, you are behind by like years and years and years and years in technology. Here's the stupid part. In my house alone, I have now realized that we have at least five or six computers between everyone in the house. We're a family of, we have like a whole family thing, but my mom has a computer for work. My brother has a computer for school. My sister has a computer for school. I have two computers, one for school and one for home. Like I have my desktop set up at home. I have my laptop for school. Who the fuck does not know how to use a computer? If you're talking about the learning curve to build the computer, yes, sure. I can agree with you. There is a little bit of a learning curve, but it's literally just a Google search and a couple YouTube videos away from you being able to assemble a computer. And once you know how to do that and you've perfected how to do that, streamlined the process, guess what? You know how to build a computer now. And you can get hired as like a computer builder or a tech person to do that in a more effective light. So if you don't know how to use a computer like at all, even just like to click around with a mouse, you do not... It's so fucking stupid because computers have been around for like ever. I remember even in my like middle school era when they were starting to introduce things like smart boards that connected with via Bluetooth and other sorts of stuff via computers, mind you. So my teachers knew how to use computers. Like, oh my God, there's no learning curve in a lot of the sense of computers. The only thing that is a quote unquote barrier to entry might be the building of a PC. But even still, that is again a simple Google search and a couple YouTube videos away. from you being able to assemble that computer.
However, in the next category, performance, in terms of raw output options and flexibility and upgrades, PC is the crown winner here by far. Don't get me wrong. I have been on this next-gen console like the PS5, and I've experienced the Series X and so on and so forth. Even the Nintendo Switch, not being a current-gen console, or next-gen console, I should say, has phenomenal tech behind it and its whole option of portability.
Oh, fuck. You just mentioned laptops like 5 seconds ago, my guy. I'm trying not to get angry here, but he mentioned laptops like 5 seconds ago. Those also have portability. Again, like I said, I have a laptop. I also have a desktop. The laptop is for school. I take it to school and I use it for however fucking long I can, and then I use my desktop at home when I get home and do like actual work. There's portability in laptops. You can take your PC to places if you make it a small form factor. Yes, you have to like pick up an entire tower and maneuver a lot of other stuff. Sure. But at the same time, I would say, again, just buy a laptop and it still has a simplicity and ease of use. But in terms of tech, I don't think that it's the same. I don't think that they're on equal footing.
These have phenomenal hardware backing it nowadays, right? The gap that we were at previous years where like PCs were so light years ahead of consoles, we're definitely at a much closer point in that time frame where you have the flash storage, you have PCIe 4.0 support and NVMe storage and all that allow for quicker loading times, great optimization on the software end, great GPU and CPU and all the teraflops you could want.
All of that has been on PC for a while now. Also, not only that, but the PC will continue to be continuing to evolve. And I'm not sure exactly when they revealed the 30 series, but the 30 series freaking smoked all of the other consoles in terms of not only affordability, with the lowest end card, the 3050 being the near same price to a console at $500. Which usually the graphics card is like the most expensive part of, if I remember correctly, it's one of the most expensive parts that you can buy. But once you install it, it's like it'll like last you a long time. Like I'm not sure how many years, but it'll last you a while. That 30 series was revealed and it stomped consoles. My some of the popular 20 series still stomp consoles. Even my 1080 right now still stomps consoles. Like no, it's not. They're not as much on equal footing as you say they are. They don't hit that 60 FPS. They don't hit those high fidelity resolutions and things. They don't hit 4K. They don't hit 120 FPS. They just don't. All those games don't do that. They run at 30 FPS, maybe maximum. That's it. They're still stuck at 30 FPS.
What I'm trying to say is that you get amazing performance out of these next-gen consoles. Don't get me wrong. 4K support, 120 hertz, all the good stuff.
One of the things that I would like to mention that he says here is he says 4K support, but that doesn't mean that it's 4K locked. There's a difference between 4K support, like offering to support 4K, and locking your system to a 4K system. There's a big difference there. There is support for 4K, for the consoles, definitely, but not all the games would run effectively at that.
That's going to be coming out, and with that, when it comes to console gaming, you tend to see better optimization at a game level.
Ha! No. No, 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 no. Lest we forget, Cyberpunk 2077 launched so bad and broken that it had to be recalled from all the digital storefronts on both Xbox and the PlayStation. Both of those systems, you had to you couldn't play it on them for the first few months of the game being out. On PC, it still ran, and there was still a bunch of things that you could play with it. And there was still a bunch of bugs and optimization kerfuffle, but you couldn't even play it on a majority of the other consoles that were available at the time. You couldn't play it on any of them, and they still run like ass on all those consoles. They were not good supported for that. You know what else was on those things? Fallout 76. There was an entire series where someone found a bunch of bugs and glitches on like a bunch of different things, and it dropped to, I think, even less so for 10 to maybe even 15 FPS, from 15 to 10 FPS on consoles alone. No, the games are not often optimized for those systems. Wrong.
Because manufacturers are building for one specific subset of hardware versus an infinite amount of solutions that can exist on a PC. But even with all that said, the varying hardware is also the blessing and curse of PCs, in that there's so much upgradability options. There's so many high-end cards and configurations you can go with that allow you to push the game even further if the developers allow you to. It's the reason why 4K gaming, 120 hertz, 240 hertz, 360 hertz nowadays exist in the PC space, because of the ability to push and use that early adoption technology on platforms like PC.
What part of that is a curse exactly? All of that seems just positives. That's it. It's just all positives. The upgradable hardware, the be able to switching out and upgrading of specific parts. That doesn't sound like a bad thing. All of what you just listed sounds like a great thing. I also find it interesting how he says if the developers allow you to maximize out to get maximum efficiency out of your stuff, why the fuck would they not have that option? Like, I would think a majority of game developers, like 99% of game developers who are good at their job and want them to experience the game, would want them to experience it at the best graphical fidelity or at the best performance that anything that they could handle it could be at. It's what? I don't get that. That's weird. That's a weird statement. God, we're only halfway through this video. Fuck, I gotta get through this thing.
So performance-wise, pure output, pure flexibility, and upgradability, because you can continue to upgrade cards and CPUs and whatnot, it's got to go to PC.
Flexibility and upgradability are only on the PC. You can't even customize consoles. I'm sorry. There's none of that.
Next up, game selection and libraries. The ability to get games, where you can get them, how much they cost, is almost just as important as the platform that you pick, or I guess it factors in the platform that you might pick, I should say.
Oh boy.
Because there are certain games that you can only get on one or the other, and consoles tend to have more of that first-party exclusivity to it, right?
Not anymore.
Because manufacturers own, Sony or Microsoft own these consoles and have deals with game studios or outright own game studios to develop games for their platforms to draw in people.
I mean, you can say that all you want, but even through things like emulation alone, you can get through all of Nintendo's library. Not only that, both PlayStation and Xbox are now porting over their games to the PC market, because they've realized that the people on PC don't really want to play on the console. To use my marketing knowledge here, if you have a group of 100,000 people and you can sell them 100,000 Xboxes, but you have a group of 300,000 people who play outside of your 100,000, but they don't want to buy the hardware that you're selling, but they will buy your games, because if they're good enough or if they want them enough, they will buy it, and you can sell those people those games. Why the fuck would you not do that? And that's the one thing that I don't find interesting about that. Also, they say the whole AAA experience and stuff, and yeah, sure, AAA experience is more prevalent on console, but that's because console itself is a more regulated single party platform, more or less. But there still is a ton of other AA and even indie games that have trickling their way over to the console market, sure. But here's the big thing, there's not a lot of AAA hype on on PC. There's a lot of AAA hype on PlayStation, but not really so much on PC. But they're bringing over their games to the fucking PC. Jesus Christ. Fuck, blame the sickness.
Right? Think Halo for Xbox, think Gears of War, think Last of Us or Ghost of Tsushima for PlayStation.
Halo on PC has been a thing. Gears of War has been on PC with Game Pass, as well as you can just buy it. The Last of Us might be coming to the PC for a while, and Sekiro Shadows Die Twice is all but confirmed for PC at this point.
While technology is advanced and we're seeing things like cross-platform compatibility, where it doesn't matter what platform you're on for games like Rocket League or Fortnite or Call of Duty, for example, that's just better for gamers everywhere. There are still certain first-party exclusives that you have to be on one platform or the other to get.
Nope, not really.
In terms of AAA titles, however, we're seeing a lot of them get ported both ways, to the PC or to the consoles. Sort of they exist across the board there.
People will wait for games if they want to. Again, whole slate for the PlayStation, as well as day and date on Game Pass for Xbox, which is also for Game Pass Xbox stuff, which is also available on PC, as well as a lot of their games are coming to the market of Steam as well. Not all of them. I mean, if anything, Halo Infinite is on Steam, which is awesome. But yeah, you can also just get it from Microsoft or just buy Game Pass or something like that. Like, no. Oh, also PS Now, before I forget.
But all that in mind, and even with the great first-party exclusives, I still think the PC as a whole here and at scale has better deals, has better selections, and better marketplaces when it comes to games. You can buy games from Steam, you can buy games from EA or Origin, you can, Ubisoft has its own thing. There's just so many different places and ways you can get games on the PC that it also drives the pricing market down in the sense that you have more deals, more sales on the PC side of things in comparison to consoles. There's a reason Nintendo, for example, who has such a historic franchise and exclusive rights to their titles, can continue to charge $60 to $70 for titles that have been out for multiple years on the Nintendo Switch, where if you look at titles that have been out for the same period of time on the PC, even if they're PC exclusives, likely you can get them for like 30, 40, 50% off at times, right?
Correct. And this is, again, one of the points that I agree with on his front. There is a lot more competition on PC, so a lot of the prices do tend to get driven down, which is why we don't often pay $70 for certain games. Also, Nintendo emulation is a thing.
That PC market and the flexibility there just tends to be better on that side of things. Not to mention things like backwards compatibility. Even though the next-gen consoles have done a phenomenal job with this and have done more and more supporting certain titles and games, not everything is out there, right? Not everything is there, and not everything is in that sweet spot. There's modifications, there's things you can do, but on the PC, there's not a lot of tinkering you have to do when it comes to backwards compatibility. As long as you have the download source, it's likely going to work.
See, this is again one of the points that I actually agree with him on this front. There's not a lot of tinkering. You just download maybe an emulator, or you downloaded a few things. There's not too much, and this is a more level-headed response of his, which I agree with 100%.
So gaming, the game selection, the library for me goes to PC gaming. Lastly, I want to wrap up with some miscellaneous thoughts in my experience thus far on both sides. There's something to be said for that console experience, kicking back on your couch and playing games, just turning on the controller and having the console boot up on your big screen TV. It's something I've really missed with my whole PC setup. I have a triple monitor setup, or 4 monitors actually set up in front of me, and it's still nice to just kind of kick back on the couch and lounge in the living room and play video games.
You can do the same thing on PC if you really wanted to. Also, if you kind of notice in the actual video that he has here, a little bit of a screenshot, in the bottom corner where he has his whole thing, he does actually have a wireless keyboard, and that's going to be interesting with stuff coming up pretty soon. But you can also have that same experience, plugging in a controller, utilizing a wireless controller on your PC, but you can hook that up to a TV. Also, you're saying, oh, well, I like my 4 monitor setup. I was like, you can't have that on a console. You can't have 4 monitors set up on a console. You can only have 1 TV, which is, again, it's still fine. One thing for a console is supremely sufficient. But let me just tell you, for PC, I would say I have 2 monitors. I have one main monitor, and I have a small monitor that is that is a portable monitor that I can actually plug into my laptop if I wanted to, with very minimal specular whatever the fuck. and even just plug it into the PC, or again, I can just plug it into my laptop and then run it off of that, and it's its own thing. It's its own screen, and I love that. It's awesome.
Not to say that you can't do that with a PC. I have a PC actually in my living room as well for VR games and whatnot, but it's not as optimized or as built for that level of experience that a console is, right? And that ease of use.
I mean,
in terms of consoles, there's also something to be said of just being able to plug in and play.
PCs can do the exact same thing, especially if you get a pre-built or a laptop. In college, I would bring around my laptop with me all the time, and we have a gaming room, and we have HDMI cables just strewn about on a bunch of the TVs. So I would just walk in there, plop down the laptop, power it up, plug it in to make sure that the battery is all charged, plug in the HDMI, and it was like literally one other cable, just so that the battery on the fucking laptop didn't die. But I'd plug that in, plug in the HDMI, and we'd play fucking Jackbox or play another thing on that on it, and it'd be fun. Like I'd even bust out my Steam controller, hand that off to someone, and then play on the little like the other stuff. You can play on a TV with a laptop.
With next gen titles that come out on PCs, one thing we always consider when I play with a bunch of my friends is, one, can everybody play it, right? That's always a question, because not everybody's on the same hardware. Some people have better hardware, some people have hardware that might be older and not support certain games as well, and they have issues running it because of frames or what have you. There's a whole bunch of variables there when it comes to playing with your friends on the PCs that can affect certain experiences. Where in consoles, you tend to be on a more even playing field, a la exceptions like internet or bandwidth.
Again, this is one of the ones where I kind of agree with the point. Some people do have lesser hardware than other people. I know that when I would play games for certain things, more or less on the VR front, certain people didn't have the capabilities to run like VR games on their laptop or on their desktop or whatever. They couldn't run it, and I completely understand. They would just save up and get a new computer because some of them were running on like fucking 5 to 6 like generations back computers of like i3s and shit like that. Some people would run it on Apple and they would hate that. But trust me when I say, like, it's not a bad thing to have options though, but you can then upgrade that option. It's like, oh, that's a big thing. It's like, not really.
So that's something to consider. That said, for PCs, though, there's nothing that beats the customization, the physical aspect of being able to pick your case, choose your case, swap out parts.
Oh, what the fuck? Boo! Sorry, this is just a personal pet peeve of mine. It's like, fucking take the whole plastic off. Don't fucking stick the shit back on there. You weirdo. Boo. Probably for a joke or for a meme or something like that, but I hate that. I hate that so much. r/unsatisfying.
Upgrade storage, unlike that of consoles, right? Consoles are getting better at offering some options here with next-gen hardware, but at the end of the day, you're not going to beat the ability to have your crazy RGB setup, your steampunk PC, or your minimal white and black PC, like you are with a console, right? The PC side of things just offers that better level of customizations. And for me, that's why in 2021, I'm still mainly a PC gamer first and foremost. But ultimately, with all of you, it's going to come down to what you want to play and who you play with. And where does a majority of your friends play? What games do they play? Is it exclusive to a specific platform or console or what have you?
You can do a lot of the same single-player story stuff on PC. But I would say that I kind of also again agree with this point. Like, go with where your platform is for getting more friends, or a better option is to just go and make new friends, because the gaming world's like pretty big. It's kind of what I had to do. I didn't mind it. My transfer over from Xbox to PC wasn't as bad, because again I used my console for a while to play with the friends that I had on my console, and then I shifted over to PC slowly but surely and gained more friends on PC than I had on my console. So
that's what's going to weigh your decision at the end. And in my situation, I have the best of both worlds. I use my console right now strictly for single player titles I've missed out on. It's a great experience for me to play campaign and just single mode story games. Whereas when it comes to anything online and multiplayer, I'm seated here at the desk. I'm on Discord. I'm playing with my friends in that capacity, right? So it's always going to be subjective. At the end of the day, there's no one is better than the other. They have certain situations that they're better for. But what matters most is if you're having fun and you're playing games with the people that you want to be playing games with. And whatever that platform is, whatever that console is going to be subjective to that. So I hope this video helps some of you steer you in the right direction, at least initially or overall. If you enjoyed, be sure to hit that thumbs up, like button, subscribe for more content in the technology field. And as always, I'm Adrian for Digital Dojos, and thanks a lot for watching.
And like that, the video is over. The last 15 seconds is just like his standard outro, which is fine. We can just skip over that. It doesn't really matter too much. But overall, this was not as bad as the previous Crap Gamer video. Let me just be very clear. With Crap Gamer, a lot of his stuff isn't good. And a lot of his stuff is just awful and just like completely filled with misinformation. This one didn't have as much. There were, again, some points that I would say, yes, definitely, I agree on that front wholeheartedly, because, again, there's a lot of things he says. On both sides are fine. But I'm not condemning him, and I know that I went off on a couple of rants about like, no, there's like this is a wrong thing. It's like, yes, he did have some wrong and misinformation in there, but I'm gonna be honest, it wasn't as bad. It wasn't awful. It wasn't like the worst thing in the world. There was, again, like some actual good information there, but it was kind of buried under a lot of misinformation and a lot of information that seems like it's correct, but it's actually not. Again, the first party exclusives, PC wins out on that front regardless. Even if it's only fucking like indie games or like AA games. Like there's a lot of AAA games that are exclusive to PC games, or like AAA games. And again, a lot of that PC stuff, that those exclusives that were on those platforms are on the PC in one way or another, either through emulation or now being officially released by like PlayStation stuff. Like PlayStation PC is now a thing. But yeah. Anyway. But yeah, so I think that's gonna do it, really. Not too much to say on the front other than what I've said already. And I'll probably get this 40 minutes. Jesus Christ, I need to cut down this audio as much as possible. But yeah. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. My name is GamePango21, and I also submitted this to Joe from Seattle, but I didn't want to wait for the video, so awesome. I might actually send him this one because it'd be really funny. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and peace off.